one final testimony here. This is from Nathaniel. I just found this, and it speaks to me on a lot of levels. Too many forget that the continuance of a people should come from the love of one's own people, and not a hate for the other. I hate the mistakes I made. I wear them every day, and some I even wish I could take back. But time is merciless and flows only forward. I'm trying to rectify them, but some I may just have to live with. It's an uphill battle. Listen to this guy, No White Guilt.
Listen to this guy, No White Guilt. No White Guilt. No White Guilt. Listen to this guy, No White Guilt. No White Guilt. No White Guilt.
Everything from being a man to encouraging your kin to face tattoos to how you identify yourself and your beliefs to discerning your motivations for why you want to see the children of the West survive. Don't make my mistakes. You'll feel like a fool otherwise. Don't make my mistakes. As from Nathaniel Nelson, a warning to him about the warnings that he wished he had somebody share with him.
Listen to this guy, No White Guilt. No White Guilt. No White Guilt. Listen to this guy, No White Guilt. No White Guilt. No White Guilt. Listen to this guy, No White Guilt. No White Guilt.
And we are rolling and going free. Great to see everyone here today. Please let me know that the microphone is the right microphone and that I'm looking as gloriously handsome as I always do. We have a very special guest, which I'm going to bring on in just a moment for an hour-packed, very intriguing, heartfelt conversation. It's going to be very interesting. I know you are not going to want to miss it. I see Real Playlist is here saying, welcome to your guest. Thank you for that. The great Yiz the Unifier saying sound is great, and she's very excited about our guest today as well. Please let your friends know. I know it is perhaps an odd time for me to be streaming during the week, streaming again during the week, but we are indeed doing that because of this occasion. It's wonderful. Great to see Franklin and Grace the Sinner is here. There's Reptile, the brilliant Reptile, him and his lovely family. Always champs. Great to see him. Ardent Party. I am going to read a little bio for our guest, and we're not going to waste time. We're going to bring her forward. Just to let you know, though, over the course of this gathering, we have the normal platforms are all up and playing on the monitors all around me, and Entropy is up, as well as D Live and Odyssey and Cash App, where you may make financial gifts over the course of the stream, and I will attend to those. You may also tag me as No White Guilt across any of these streams, including Entropy, and I will speak to those as well. And great to see that Lacey has shown up, and Ardent, did I say Ardent Party before? And Anna's World Conqueror. Great to see you all. Let me take a read from this. This is wonderful. You are all going to be very impressed with this woman. And you know what? I should have, when I was very briefly speaking with her before we got started, I should have asked her to make sure about the pronunciation. But I'm going to go ahead and take a stab. And if I'm incorrect, then she will correct me when we bring her forward from backstage. Sharika Soal is a celebrity and entertainment publicist, most well known for serving as a social media manager and content creator for HuffPost. She has worked as a publicist for Interscope Records, artists, and MTV and VH1 personalities. She later founded her own PR company called Lady Soul PR. She used to be the lead singer of Lady Soul until she signed with Justin Timberlake and pursued a solo career. Currently, her petition to make the death penalty mandatory for all convicted pedophiles who videotape child rape has more than 43,000 signatures. And what a noble thing to do. I retweeted that. So if you're looking for that and you're looking for her account, you can find that on my Twitter. And that is something that if you wanted to put your name to it, I can't imagine who wouldn't want to put their name to that petition. But what essentially how we got started, I'm going to bring her out right now. Essentially, how this got started was Sharika reached out to me and essentially said to me, how do I demonstrate and show that I support you and those like you who are speaking out against what we would refer to as anti-whitism, this obvious persecution, double standards, discrimination. That takes a lot of courage and integrity for anybody to do. And so we're very grateful. Let me bring her forward. Did I say your name right or did I have it wrong?
Yes, you said it correctly.
All right. Sharika Soal, well, thank you so much for being here. We're really honored to have you. And is there anything that you want to add to the introduction that I just read to the audience? Just say hello or anything else before we get started with the conversation?
That was great. I did used to work in PR, and now I'm more of a political kind of I wouldn't say I'm an influencer, but yeah, it was a great intro.
Well, good. I'm glad we covered most of the bases. Sharika, folks, is at 91,000.8 followers, and it would be awesome if within the next week or so she hit 100,000. I'm just looking at her Twitter right now. Of course, she retweeted that she was going to be with us today, which is totally epic, and she has pointed out some really relevant things that I think that most people here would be interested in. The double standard of treatment for a soccer referee being called the anti-white slur racist just because he wanted the rules to be obeyed there, and the rule breakers happened to be non-white. And she also spoke out against the Michigan shooting, how it doesn't fit what we would refer to as the anti-white narrative. But I really want to hear, Sharika, from you. Like, what are you observing in the world? Why did you feel like, we'll just jump right into this. Why did you feel like it was important for you as a social observer, socio-political observer, to make these tweets and to say that you can see this discrimination?
Well, I do want to start off by saying that I'm adopted by an interracial couple. The woman was white and the man was black, and they were what I would consider liberal Hillary Clinton worshipers, um,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. So from a very early age, my perception of evil and racism was always shifted because my adopted parents were not good people.
Mm.
So I could never look at the world and see white people as solely being this kind of group of people that I should be afraid of and that I should think have it out for me, when my adopted dad, who happened to be black, was not a good man. He
Mm.
was a child abuser.
Mm.
So I've always kind of had this way of looking at racism in a way that's, I guess you would say, non-emotional, because I've
Mm.
lived the truth. I know for a fact that racism and evil, whatever you want to call it, these behaviors, Black people are capable of them too, and they do treat people and abuse people and bully people and murder people and essay people, that everything that we accuse the white race subduing, we ourselves are doing. And so I guess over the time, over this course of however these many years of this going on, I'm 38 now, I'm kind of over it.
Right.
How for how long am I supposed to be a race loyal to a group of people who've hurt me, who hurt each other, who really don't care about each other. Black lives do not actually matter to Black people. So I'm just at a place where it's like, is this real? Are we really hurting? Or are we using racism as a scapegoat to not really look at ourselves and really have those uncomfortable conversations and about how our large group of people, the Black race, is affecting society and how people feel in society? Because we're also contributing to people not feeling safe. We are also contributing to people feeling, having trauma in their lives. There's a lot of child abuse that goes on in the Black community. So that's kind of how I got to where I am now. It started off with, me being young and having this perception of my own adoption, and then, growing into a woman and having my own interactions with my race. And so I'm over it. I'm like, I don't want to be like the 80-year-old Black women today that marched and marched and marched and marched. And these women are burying their grandsons because of gang violence. They
Mm,
marched with MLK, and now in their old age, they're dealing with drive-by shootings.
mm.
So I don't want to be that 80-year-old Black woman who dedicated my life to, you know, basically, sorry,
It's okay.
living as a victim and
Mhm.
blaming everyone else for what's going on.
That's really brilliantly said. What an opening that was. Brilliantly said. And I saw somebody wrote sound mind. The great Slots, he's our in-house philosopher. He said sound mind, talking about you as you were just sharing here in the opening. It's so telling, and it's so interesting for us to be able to hear from a Black woman born into the Black community, with an adoptive parents, a white mother and a Black father, and getting to see things from the inside, having the expectations of what, as we articulate this in this anti-white narrative that all of the West lives under, this expectation is put on non-white people that you have to be loyal to this ideology, which they give various names over the years. It changes somewhat. Right now, you hear woke very often, but progressive has been around for quite a little time, quite a little amount of time, and you have to be loyal to it in a way that's akin to a cult, and that to not overlook the sins of it, to not overlook the crimes of it, to not continue to articulate the fantasies, the things that you don't actually see happening in the world, is to be attacked. So it takes I recognize, and I want you to know, Sharika, that we all recognize that it takes a great deal of courage. And we know that you are going to have negative things said about you. We know that you're going to have lies told about you from people who benefit from, again, what we refer to as the anti-white narrative. You could call it progressivism or wokeism or what have you. They're going to make lies up about you because this is the way a cult functions. They punish people who leave. They punish people who point out the errors of the ideology. So we really salute you for having the courage. As you say, you finally had enough. You're over it, and you're ready to speak out against these people who want to shut you up. And so that's a really courageous thing, and really appreciate you coming on with us. What are some of the, maybe over the years or most recently, some of the aspects of what you would probably call progressivism and its complaints about the white race that you find to be most fictional, that you can't actually connect to white people, and yet they demand of you that you hold these opinions? An example I might just give you to get you thinking might be that white people are this enslavers of the world, or white people are stealing. The only reason white people ever do well is because they're stealing everything from everyone else.
Right. So I definitely think within the Black community, there's this misperception that if you are a white person, you are automatically rich. You know, you've got 4 unicorns in your backyard and you can go and, pull out $3,000 from the ATM
Right.
at any given moment. There's this kind of denial um, or omission from the Black community, and I call that an omission because we've all had a white friend who maybe wasn't rich, so we are aware that financially we have all been on the same playing field, as far
Mhm.
as there are poor whites, there are poor Blacks, et cetera, et cetera. And I do think that's one of the hugest misconceptions and what causes a lot of apathy towards white people being abused, and kind of this what's been going on for especially the last 4 years, this intense, excessive public displays of white hate, is because Black people are taught, and I don't know why, but within the community, they're definitely taught that white people are rich by default. You are okay. There isn't really any struggle that's happening to you. Even if you are poor, it doesn't matter because you're still way better off than a Black person, and that's just ridiculous. A homeless white person who's struggling with their mental health is no better off than a Black person who's homeless and struggling with their mental health. There's not some magical privilege card that a white person is gonna wave to get them out of their mental health struggles. So I do think that's one of the biggest myths, and that's one of the biggest um kind of hurdles. I don't know if it's a hurdle, but one of the things that keeps the empathy, from the
Mhm.
compassion, from being able to look at a white person being abused or a white person who's struggling or lost their job and say, I really feel sorry for that person. It's
Right.
become so normalized to see and hear that a white person has gone through something, and
Mm.
it's normal for Black people to say, oh, well, they were probably a racist, and so
Right.
I think that's a huge misconception.
But I love that you just said that. Seriously, it is one part of what you just said there is it's almost like word for word out of a part of one of my books called "Go Free: A Guide to Aligning with the Archetype of Western Kind," where you said, a poor white person or a homeless white person is just as homeless as a homeless non-white person, and a white person with mental health issues is just as mentally unwell as a non-white person with mental health issues. Precisely, that is exactly the folks who read the book. I just saw Artificer in the chat saying "cool gal." Yeah, absolutely. That's a really astute observation, and that is indeed the case. You speak exactly to a phenomenon that I talk about, where when white people inside, or when non-white people and white people inside the anti-white narrative, when they become anti-white, they look out at the white race and they only see the wealthiest, the best looking, the most powerful, the most privileged, white people with the most connections. But then, in their effort to blame, in other words, to play a victim, as you said, that you're not going to play this victim. To play a victim, for their shortcomings or for their unwillingness, and that the shortcoming might be something like a dedication to education, a dedication to a job, etc. To wipe away what they're responsible for, they want to blame the whole white race. And when they do that, every white person, you just said it so beautifully, every white person, no matter how poor, no matter how ugly, no matter how sick, they become the avatar for the whole white race, the best of the white race, the wealthiest or the meanest or the most corrupt or whatever it is. That person, the white guy that lives down the street, becomes the avatar for all of that when he
Mhm.
has none of that. And of course, smart people, good people of all races can always see that. They can always see that's the case, but it takes a lot of courage. What is it like? I want to, before getting away from the particular snares, I think, in the Black community that you face, what is it like when you say to other Black people, hey, this doesn't make sense. It's like this poor white person is just as poor, or how is this fair that we're supposed to think this when we do the same things? So when you want us to think that about white people, how are you treated? What happens? Are you ever listened to, or are you immediately shut down? What's it like for you?
I mean, over the years, it's kind of fluctuated. I've definitely been doing this for a while. I remember in 2017, I spoke out about Black Lives Matter banning white people from their meetings. I thought it was a little bit ridiculous, because how are we to communicate with white people about the issues that we want them to care about when they're not allowed to be inside the room and have a meeting? And so I just thought that was just all ridiculous. And I remember I had said something on Twitter, and Black Twitter dragged me
Really?
from the here to kingdom come. So now, it's definitely not good. I mean, like I say, in the Black community, there's this perception that to be Black, you have to be the most aggressive, you have to be the most ghetto, if I can use that word.
Yeah.
It's all about being dominating and rough around the edges, and especially with the men. I really think that a lot of Black men think to be a man to be very, very aggressive. And so I've been treated as anybody would guess. I've been called names. I've been stalked. I've had death threats. I even had a group of Black men threatening home invasion. I've been doxxed, or whatever you want to say. It's at this point I'm kind of desensitized to it, though, because I strongly believe in what I'm saying. The community wants to treat each other like crap, and then we're supposed to go outside and protest for each other against white people.
Mm.
And that is just ridiculous to me. Like, you're not going to spend your life online telling the world that I'm a ghetto bee, rapping about me in rap songs about, all these horrible things that are said, degrading things that are said in hip hop about Black women, then expect me to go outside and
Yeah.
get hit with a rubber bullet for you. So it hasn't been great. But at this point, I'm pretty desensitized to it. I do consider myself a divested from the community, definitely divested from that mindset of pro-Blackness, because it's really just harmful to Black women at the end of the day. Black men are not our saviors. They're not a safe space. They're not a secure space for Black women. So
Mm.
it is what it is at this point.
That's very telling. I mean, that seems like that could be, we could have you back for a show all in and of itself, just about that statement right there. That's really saying something. I'm really sorry to hear that you were attacked. All of this, stalked, threatened with home invasion, and doxxed, all of this. And that was for speaking back against, I guess, these norms within the Black community, this expectation that you must support, and I guess the elements of what you refer to as pro-Blackness that we would see as the ideology of anti-whitism, and that was their response to you. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Talk about, that is definitely like a cult mentality. That's a cult atmosphere, and we observe this from the outside, but it's always something different. Charlie Chione was just talking about this when he made his follow-up video, where he was saying that I'll speak about this. I'm gonna put you backstage for a moment so you can get your avatar back up on the screen if you'd like, because it disappeared. It disappeared while you were talking there, probably just like a little glitch. But when you fixed it, I didn't want your camera to come on, and if you didn't want that on, so I want to just give you the opportunity, and you can listen to me while you take a look at that. But Charlie Chione had a follow-up video where he talked about how he got all of these responses to him saying, what are we doing to white people? And he is now he's frightened because he has these very negative things that are being said to him, threatening things that are being said to him. And this is exactly what we see every single time, that indeed, when people try to move away from anti-white ideology, when good non-white people try to move away from playing the victim of what, who and what are non-white people the victim of? Well, it's the white race. And that's why we call this the anti-white narrative. When good non-white people try to move away from that, they end up being attacked like this. So is there any wonder? And Sharika's a woman who is saying these things and moving away from these positions and opinions, and being critical of those in her midst. And this is how they're willing to treat a woman. Let me bring you back. I don't see maybe it's not going to let you put your avatar back up, but no worries, it's fine. Just wanted to give you the opportunity to take a stab at trying to address it. But yeah, you're facing the exact same thing that Charlie Chione and others have when they, as members of non-white communities, him Asian, you Black respectively, decide that they're going to move away from the position of what we would refer to as anti-whiteism. So really sorry to hear that. And we're ready. I know there might be some trolls from, I guess, anti-white trolls that want to follow you around and over. But trust me, my troll slayers will take them down as soon as they show up.
I'm so sorry about my avatar.
No worries. No worries. No worries whatsoever. What did you have? What were your thoughts? Let me jump to kind of come to some modern or current news, I should say. What happened with Michigan? And before I say anything about my opinion about this shooter in Michigan, what did you see? I noticed you said something like it doesn't fit the woke agenda or something like this on your tweet.
Yeah, I did say that because, even before his picture had come out, people were saying that this is another case of how, white supremacy is affecting America. We have to do something about the conservatives. And, they were, going all in. And just like with Tyree Nichols, when they assumed that the cops were white, the shooter was Black, was a short Black man. And so I just noticed this kind of surge of tweets. With George Floyd, it lasted for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, viral tweet after viral tweet.
Mm-hmm.
And, with the Tyree Nichols and with the Michigan shooter, it kind of is anticlimactic. Once this photo starts being distributed of the shooter and people see that it's a non-white person, people kind of, go back to what they were talking about before, find the next thing. It's almost like people are purposely looking for ways to be anti-white. They're just waiting for a headline that suits their anti-white clout searching. They're looking for a way to go viral. So it's like, I can't go viral talking about the shooter being Black and nobody cares. So, I'm not going to talk about that.
Wow, that is so telling. That is absolutely perfect. You're on the inside. You're seeing exactly what we see from the outside, and it's not just it's with any anti-white circle. So it's not like that's just what's happening among Black people, some Black people, and that's just what's happening among some Asian people, and this is what's happening among some white people. It's the same across the board. When people are anti-white, that's exactly what they're doing. They're looking for the real world events to fit the anti-white narrative that we're forced to live under. So they say, well, does this McRae, I think his last name was, at Michigan, does this event fit the anti-white narrative? And in the anti-white narrative, white people are always the villains. White people are they're always the villains. They're always the killers. They are always heartless. They're always miserable. And non-white people, if they do ill, if they do bad, they have to blame white people for it. It was white people put them in a bad condition. White people forced them to do it. White people paid them to do it, or what have you. And so this narrative, you just said exactly what I say here, and we say here in love, because we're not going to get to anywhere productive for everyone if we don't get there by way of love. And so that means we have to tell the truth, even when the truth is unacceptable to a lot of very angry people, and angry people who benefit from the truth being suppressed. Here you had a guy who is not a white guy, so that doesn't work for their narrative. And he didn't murder a bunch of non-white people, so that doesn't work for their narrative. So yeah, they're going to drop the story. They're going to ignore it. They're going to look for something else to talk about it. Or we see, as with Tyree, we see the effort to blame the white race because any structures of Western civilization remain in Memphis, Tennessee. And it's because of those structures that you have scenarios, even when they are non-white police officers, that end up in non-white people being harmed. So that's remarkable. Have you had like one-on-one arguments with folks saying, who are clearly like anti-white, and they just want to ignore any facts? It doesn't matter. They just want to get to an anti-white conclusion, where you lost maybe somebody who was a you thought was a friend or even a family member over it?
Yes, I have had arguments with people. I wouldn't consider them close friends. It's a lot of discourse online.
Mm.
Um, I brought up to this one person that, how do you think cops feel showing up to these crime scenes where there are dead bodies of, murdered victims who are Black, and they know that the offender is most likely a Black person? Like, how do you demonize a department who we rely on to kind of clean up some of these obviously very traumatic scenes? I know I don't want to go to crime scenes and clean up after, a gang shootout, or clean up after a man who's just beat up his baby mom in front of their children. I don't want to go and do that. So what do we really expect the police to treat the general public like, when they know better than anybody what they're dealing with? How do we try to tell them what they're dealing with and then call it racism?
Right.
If Black people were worried about being perceived as, worried about, racism and stuff like that with cops, then we wouldn't commit crimes. We wouldn't do things that would cause the police to have to intervene. And when you're being physically abusive and abusing your children and abusing the community and robbing local businesses, yeah, the cops have to intervene. So what do you expect America to think of us? How do you expect the police department to deal with us? And the thing about it is they pretend that white people don't have the same issues with the cops. I mean, I grew up in Iowa. It was mostly white. Iowa was a predominantly white state. And I mean, they didn't seem to be racist when they were locking up all the white kids who were getting caught with weed and paraphernalia and stuff like that. Where's the racism there? If you look at all of the inmate roster list, it's a bunch of white guys, and
Yeah.
but the media doesn't talk about that. They don't talk about how white people are also killed by the police, how white people also have confrontations that don't turn out in their favor when it comes to dealing with the police. But the difference between our race and the white race is that you guys don't have a problem calling out bad behaviors. You built
Right.
the Department of Justice to call out bad behaviors, to address criminal acts. And our race is just kind of like, well, white people do it too, and you're racist if you call me a criminal. No matter how many crimes I commit, if you call me a thug, you're racist. And yeah, I've gotten into arguments with people when I've tried to bring that up. Sorry, that was like long-winded, but
No, that's actually beautiful. That's again, God, thank you for first of all, thank you for acknowledging that white people, we punish each other when we misbehave. And it's a crazy thing for me. For anybody who studies any history, you look at the white race throughout our history, and we have been very tough on wrongdoers. I mean, very, very tough on wrongdoers throughout our history. So this idea in the anti-white narrative that you're a white guy, you pull over, you're going like 100 miles an hour over the speed limit, and the cop walks up and he says, "Oh, didn't realize you were white. You may go, sir." I mean, it is insane. I was, and I've shared before, and I don't want to use a bunch of this conversation up talking about it, but when I was underage, I was riding a dirt bike out on the road, and it wasn't legal to be on a dirt bike, but on the road. But it certainly didn't warrant the white police officer pointing a gun in my face and then thumping on me on the hood of his police car, and then like hog tying me the way he did in the back. I was juvenile that was totally obedient to the law and happy to obey the law. So in the police department, there are good people, there are bad people, just like every other part of life. And the more the more violent an area, the fewer the people who are good that want to work there, and the more violent, the more they have to put up with, the more the shorter their fuses. It's just yeah, I totally get that. But you started speaking directly to something that I thought, I really want to ask Sharika about this, and that is, how often in your experience, if you can speak to other groups of people, that's good, that's fine. But if you could speak to the Black community, how often do Black women have to put up with bad behavior, just general bad behavior by Black guys, because the Black guys use the what do you want? I'm oppressed, and it's racist, and it's siding with the white race if you get angry at me for this behavior. And the exact same question for the reverse. For the good Black guys out there, how often do they have to put up with Black women who say, well, you can't criticize my behavior that ruins our relationship, because if you do, then these are white norms or something like this. How often do Black people have to suffer each other with the excuse of that's like racist white people?
Mm-hmm. Well, I just wanted to address a comment which will lead into the answer.
Okay, cool.
Somebody is claiming that I am not American. I just wanted to clarify, I am American. I was born in Chicago in 1984
Okay.
to American Black people. Before I was adopted, my last name was Banks, which is an actual slave name. So I'm very much an American Black person. A lot of Black people, specifically Black men who want to deter other Black people from listening to me, will try to say, "Oh, she's not African American. She's an immigrant. She wasn't born, and that's why her perspectives are this way." And to that, I say, the reason I am this way is because I am adopted. I was adopted. I was born in the 80s in Chicago during the crack epidemic. My birth mother was 16 with 3 children. And you know why she had 3 children by the time she was 16? Because there was a pedophile in her environment. So I don't know why the state didn't intervene until she came in with my brother, to give birth. But eventually they realized, hey, this is a 16-year-old that's been in here 3 times over the last 3.5 years giving birth. We should probably intervene. And when they went to intervene, they decided to remove me and my siblings. So that is why I also have a very, very I'm not taking any crap from my community, because I come from the trenches of the community. I come from what happens when our race is not taking care of our children. There's a lot of Black kids who are adopted outside of their race, and that is something that pro-Blacks refuse to address. And as far as to answer your question, how often are Black men trying to deter Black women from kind of speaking our truth, especially when it comes to abuse, child sexual abuse, financial abuse. You can mark off all the lists every single minute of every single day, which is
Wow.
why I think there is starting to become a movement of Black women like me who are divested, because you cannot sexually abuse me and financially abuse me and mentally abuse me for years, for decades. These men have gotten away with, and that's not to say Black women don't abuse their children or men aren't affected, but I'm just speaking as a woman and we're talking about Black men. You cannot treat me like I am your punching bag and then be confused that Black women are slowly evolving to a place where we recognize the Black man is not my friend. He doesn't like me. He doesn't want to see me succeed. In fact, he is going out of his way to tell every single person that I am no good, that I am the reason the Black community is being destroyed. So, okay,
Wow.
if you want to blame me for the state of the Black community, even though it is you who are walking away from your children and showing sociopathic behavior, because it is sociopathic, to not care if you can't come up with $300 to feed your child once a month, you are a sociopath. You do not care. You're letting the women rely on the government. And so this happens all the time. And I
Wow.
think that's why there's a lot of women like me. We've had enough. How dare you look at me and say I'm suffering from white supremacy and then you put your hands on me? You are
Wow.
a sociopath, and I will not support the Black man anymore.
So this is really something. What a fascinating conversation this is. I'm seeing here that within the Black community of your experience, you are seeing that there are Black people who will use this sort of this global sort of anti-white narrative as an excuse for every bad behavior, as an excuse to be vicious, as an excuse to be lazy, as an excuse to be a deadbeat, as an excuse to abuse, just any way they can. So it ends up being something that cripples the Black family. It ends up being something that cripples a strong Black family and Black men and women treating each other in a way that can create a strong Black family. This excuse of you are ruining our Black community, and we have this hard struggle against the white man, and it's all your fault if you don't allow me to, I don't know, stay out all hours of the night, to not come home some nights, to continually lose jobs or whatever it might be. Oh my gosh. And I could hear the passion in your voice while you're sharing that. That's really a shocking thing for folks. This is, it's so telling too that I'll speak to this before we wrap it up in about another 15, 20 minutes, at least for this time together. We're definitely going to have you back. But there are white people out there who are typically will call themselves conservatives, and they will never point out that the attack on Western civilization is an attack on the white race, on an attack on everything the white race produces. And we can all see this. So they're such cowards because they grow up in a world where it is immoral to do anything good for a white person, just absolutely immoral. And they love to talk about when there's some sort of a victimization. Let's say, for example, the border being open. A typical white conservative person, God bless their hearts, they'll Gesundheit. They'll look at the damage being done to the communities there at the border on the American side by this wild immigration going on, and they will gladly speak to the non-white children, adults, families suffering there, again, because to speak out against the suffering of whites is considered immoral in the West today. But they don't realize that failing to speak out against this anti-white ideology, that they are failing to speak out against the very thing that malefactors, by etc., evildoers, wrongdoers in different communities use as an excuse to manipulate good members of their communities, to excuse bad behavior in their communities. And this is what we say sometimes when we say this attack on white people always it produces this collateral damage across the board for all the races, different groups of religions, etc., in the West. It always damages everybody. And folks, here is a perfect example of what Sharika is sharing about in the hearts and souls of their families, where they're supposed to build these loving unions and bring their children up, bring their babies up so they have good childhoods and they're trained to be good adults. So they'll get up, they'll be productive, they'll lead happy lives. In that very scenario, people will use anti-white narrative, they'll use anti-whiteism as a whip, as a talk about a whip and slavery, as a bullwhip on members of their own community to justify bad behavior, to berate, belittle, to control. How absolutely repulsive that good people in your community and in every community has to put up with things like that.
Right. And, for me, what I just want my community would realize is that, we can't go on for 600, 700 years. We won't be here in 100 years. And I do not think that there's going to come a time when people say slavery was 1,000 years ago and we're still going to be living in a sympathy party and people will have the same sympathy for us as time goes on. If racism is about having hate towards someone because they exist, not liking someone's existence because of their skin, then it's wrong no matter who it is. It is wrong to hate the white guy at Starbucks for existing. He doesn't know me. He's not coming to my neighborhood. And the Black community needs to wake up. If you have 1 in 4 Black girls coming and saying they've been sexually assaulted by the time they were 18, that's 60%. That means we have a very high number of predators, child predators in the Black community. And to continue to kind of act like racism is going to fix the wounds that we're actually trying to recover from, it's not going to work forever. Like, we're on the end of our sympathy party, and I cannot be upset with white people for pushing back against us, because it's, if we don't want to be hated and abused for existing, then we should show the same grace.
Well, oh boy, amen to that in so many ways. I imagine, I mean, I am, and I imagine you definitely have a right to be upset with anti-whites of any race, but here in particular, white anti-whites. These white people that they really hate themselves. They hate our people. They think they become valuable by destroying Western civilization, by destroying the white race. Those people are the same kind of people who would say to you or to say to other Black folk who are being victimized by Blacks that here's a barrel of excuses for the Black people who are victimizing you. We can't treat them roughly for victimizing you, because they've grown up in this world where white people have essentially made them do it. White people have essentially made them this way. They have no responsibility. They have no agency. So whatever they do to you, and including these pregnancies out of wedlock, and including beatings, and including robberies, and whatever they do to you is just a consequence of what the white race has done to them. That's got to be absolutely infuriating, to have these white anti-whites and anti-whites of other races come along behind the predators and tell you, well, it's not really the predator's fault.
Yeah, that's my entire existence. My adopted dad, who was Black, is a pedophile. And, he was allowed to defraud the adoption foster care laws. And, they got us through an agency. So essentially, he paid for me and my sisters and was allowed to get away with this. And the reaction that I get has also fueled basically the way I am. when I talk to white people, I've had the courage to talk about these things. White people are very, oh my God, pedos are horrible. We have a recipe for that, stuff like that. Very, very supportive. And when I've talked to Black people and revealed that he is Black, it's a completely different reaction. There's no compassion for what it was like for me to essentially be legally kidnapped by these people. There's no
Wow.
compassion that I too maybe went through something so traumatic to get me to this point. So that's also why I have a lot of pushback, because there is a very obvious coddling of child predators in our in our culture. It's just blatant at this point that you're only supposed to speak of pedophilia being a white issue. How dare you talk about the Black man? I'm not talking about the Black man, I'm talking about pedophiles. Why
Right.
do you keep trying to equate the good Black man who works at Home Depot and takes good care of his wife and his kids to the Black pedophile that is hurting a bunch of children in our communities? Why do you want them to be the same? And why are we not allowed to describe their race when it is shoved down everybody's face all the time? It
Mm.
is important to point out that there are Black pedophiles. It is important to point out that murderers are also Black, because it's constantly focused on only white people. And all that does is silence the victims of Black predators and Black murders. That's
God.
all it does. It actually oppresses them, and it makes it hard for them to get the care and the concern and even the justice they need, because we are using our energy as Black people to point to the white guy instead of pointing to the creepy uncle that nobody will call 911 on.
Right. Wow. It's victimizing a second time the victims in the Black community. And the same is going to hold true for other non-white communities, further victimizing these victims, because since this is a non-white group, since we live under the anti-white narrative, non-white people, they can't do wrong. And the people who are being victimized, the majority of the people who are being victimized are the people in those communities.
Mhm.
But the white race is never going to be able to help right the wrongs in our own community and in the others if we continue to submit to anti-whiteism and continue to allow our norms to be pushed out of uh, the communities of the West, out of United States, Canada, etc. If we continue to allow our legal systems to be pushed out, if we continue to allow our codes of conduct to be pushed out, for example, at school, where we just had this school bus beating of a teenage Black teenager boy, beat the piss out of I believe it's a Hispanic little girl, like a 9-year-old little girl on
Yes, saw
a
that.
school bus. And that's happening because he's told and his peers are told that, well, you can't do any wrong, and if you do, it's white people's fault, and you are confirming that every step of the way. That's exactly how it's articulated.
Yeah, it's at this point, our race and the way that we act, the collective, it's not a good look. We're basically telling white people at this point, we're going to abuse you, we're going to try to control you, we're going to try to make you as miserable as possible for existing. There is no solution. And you guys just need to deal with it. And I don't want to be a part of that, because I think that is just going to make our lives unsafe in America if we continue to push so hard with the excessive white hate.
Yes. Oh, it definitely is. I mean, this is speaking directly to something that we've been talking about on a lot of my shows, a lot about recently, is the fact that this victimization, this targeting of Western kind, white race, and the things we produce, and the things we have borrowed from other groups, and all things that we rely on and love, the destruction of all of that, excused as in every case as this retributive justice against the white race, harms everyone. And we are absolutely not going to be able to stop this victimization of everybody who lives in the West, of all backgrounds. We're not going to be able to stop it until we start acknowledging the target. We can't, it's like if you're in boxing and you're covering your abdomen while they're punching you in the face. You can't just stand up against or stand up for freedom of speech or freedom of association and hope that in some oblique way or some accidental way, it will slow down the attacks on white people and therefore Western civilization for everybody that lives here. What would, it would be, the country would be completely different if we didn't have, if we could snap our fingers right now and anti-whiteism was gone, when it was immoral to use any excuses that are used today about white race being evil, white race oppressing, white race, etc. Suddenly, in all of these households, for example, all of these relationships that interpersonal relationships, etc., that you've had over the course of your life, the excuse of well, it's because of the white man I'm like this, and if you don't stand up with us, then you're not standing with us against the white man, and you're a traitor. All of that would be gone. Folks would have to behave properly, or they wouldn't be able to have you or guilt you or browbeat you into submission, into like this racial submission to them and their actual, malevolent ways, their abusive ways, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. What a wreck! As we're listening here, I'm like a little bit in shock. What a wreck it is to see into the households around the United States and see what anti-whiteism has made of everywhere. It has made a mess and a wreck of everywhere, and no one until us. I mean, we got big champions like Mark Dice and many others coming on board using anti-whiteism, absolutely identifying the problem. But God, I feel for what you've had to live through. And it's really sad to hear that the same ideology that has made it almost impossible for the vast majority of white guys who don't have the rich, connected college parents and long-standing familial relations at different alma mater and etc., who don't have those things. That's the vast majority of whites that made our lives suck. I mean, we can't get jobs. We're hated. We're ridiculed. We're thought of as incompetent. The commercials are always showing, and it's just endless. That same ideology that did that, totally wrecked giant parts of your life. These people abusive to you and using the excuses that they use, born out of this narrative. What a mess it's made.
Yeah. And I just think, I really wish that my race would just come to kind of a place of discernment. People are aware. It's not a secret. There are videos every single day on TikTok, Twitter that go viral, millions, billions of views at this point, of our race robbing people, being physically aggressive, attacking people. There's tons and tons of mugshots of our race, getting caught with child abuse material, et cetera, right? So this idea that we're going to somehow bully the white race into accepting us and our bad behavior as a whole is crazy. It's crazy. Nobody has to love a thug. Nobody has to love gang culture, which is directly tied to serial killers. Those are the mass shooters in our communities, in white communities, and in all communities, right? So it's like, we just have to be really real at some point. They can see us. They can see us. Okay. And at this point, if there's someone that doesn't like us, it's because some of us deserve not to be liked. It's not because of racism. And being anti-white is not going to heal us, and it's not going to fix anything. Because if all the white people in the world decided to give us hugs and kisses, we would be dealing with the predators in the Black community.
Oh, very, very well said. This conversation has been absolutely amazing, and totally outstripped even my high expectations. What a wonderful person you are. Thank you so much for coming on. I do want to share something else. We'll take a look at financial gifts and any questions that may have come in, and I can give those to you. But I really feel that this conversation ended up being like like discovering like a different treasure chests almost, and inside not necessarily a positive things, hurt feelings and hurt experiences and hurt expectations, but that we sort of come upon all of these and maybe cracked open a few. And there's much more to dig into. We'll definitely have to have you back. I'm going to take a look at see if we have any questions in the live chat and financial gifts. And I'm going to start over on Entropy. And we have the great Yiz, the unifier, is over there. And she has 2 financial gifts. The first for $25, the second for $3. Let's get some 07s for Yiz, the unifier, real epic champion in service to white well-being. God bless you, sister. She writes with the first one. Tonight's guest is intelligent and experienced in the real world. She's seen the ugly truth of what the anti-white mind poison does to both white and non-white people. Good people of all races should oppose anti-whiteism, and I welcome her to go free and help us build a better culture for all of us. Her copy of Go Free is on me. There you have it. There you have it. If I can get I could get you an electronic version, or I get you a physical version, whatever you'd like. Yiz is purchased it for you.
Thank you,
Sharika, and so happily get that too. And actually the audio version is almost done. I could send you that.
that'd be great.
We have Yiz with $3, and thank you so much. Back again, she says, if Mrs. Soal would like, I would love to have her on my channel for a similar discussion. I believe she and I could share ideas that would make us each stronger speakers to our relevant communities. Well, thank you so much. And I'll definitely give Sharika your info. Yes, that's fantastic. Thank you for the offer. And she's got a little heart emoji with that. Piers Taylor just came in with $5 hoppin' dollars. That's Australian dollars. That's what we like to call them. And he said, with those $5 hoppin' dollars, thank you, Sharika. You have been a great guest. God bless. Well, that's most kind of you. Thank you, brother. And it's good to see you. Let me see if we are clear. We are clear on Odyssey. And it looks like we are, well, it looks like we have it's an ice cream cone of cryptocurrency and a lemon. 1 ice cream cone, 1 lemon of cryptocurrency over there on D Live. I think that might have been for today. Yes, I think it was. It says, cool show. Western Wallace, thank you so much. And Spartan for those ice cream and lemon of cryptocurrency. And we're okay on Odyssey. Let me look around to here and see if we have anything on Cash App. And we do. We have Dr. I giving $5 as a financial gift. God bless you, brother. Dr. I says, with those $5, great interview. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I tell you, it's definitely not me today. It's Sharika. She's amazing. We really appreciate how well and how articulate you are, how able you are to share your experiences, and also your ability to demonstrate a lot of bravery in the face of this hostile browbeating and this compelling force out there that says you must stand with us against the white race and all the evil that the white race is, or you're going to be left out in the desert to just when reality is the exact opposite. Good people, good people of all backgrounds are coming together to put an end to this garbage. That's the only way we're going to fix this country. We've got to put an end to this. That means we've got to acknowledge that the primary target is the white race, and then you have all of this collateral damage, all of the damage done to, like Sharika is saying here, the black family, black relationships, black pair bonding, the black children in those environments. We're so grateful that you. 0022 says, glad you brought on this guest. No white guilt. Well, thank you very much. I see Arden White and Samantha are here, and Charles is here. Great to see you all. Stephanie Love says, awesome guest. No wanker. Well, thank you. Yes, she is. Jerome King says, what a lovely lady. Yeah, absolutely. I agree completely. And what else? Hyperborean Jim, what a great woman, and a smiling face. Thank you for that. What else do we have here? We appreciate her a lot. Does she have a YouTube channel or a way to follow her? She does indeed, and thank you for asking that. If you look down into the description below, you will find her YouTube channel and her Twitter link. And you're also on TikTok, is that right?
Yeah, I'm not currently active on my TikTok right now. It's so crazy over there. But I'm mostly active on Twitter right now if people want to see me.
We have the great Reptile. We'll tell you about Reptile. That we actually have more than a handful of certifiable geniuses in this community. Reptile's one of them, and he says here, no white guilt. Imagine if she were using our lexicon. Let's supercharge her outreach. So you did today. You already picked up anti-whiteism is just the ideology. So if she were, folks, if she were just to use that when she's talking and videos or where she types, the amount of good that will do for everybody, it really points out that, hey, this is just about hating on white people, and you got to get beyond that. I would like to see in every non-white household there to be champions like Sharika Soal and Charlie Cheong standing up and saying, look, enough of this. We have to be fair to everybody. Everybody gets dignity. Nobody's going to be blamed anymore for everybody's shortcomings. Yiz says YouTube link is in the description. Okay, she was just following up on the question. Hideo Sabbath is here. Sunny Snow is here. Great to see you. Samantha P. And let me just take a quick stroll through here to see if there are any others that are a little further up. Arcadia is here. Great to see him, folks. Montana Kid, when we're done, make sure you grab the link and you share it with your circles. Ursa Major is here so that we can let the world know. And let's get over there and follow Sharika on her Twitter account, if you have a Twitter account, and let others know to do so that she can hit that 100,000 follower mark, which will be that'll be a big deal to do that. That means a lot. So let's see. Okay, I think that we got everybody from there. And let me see. I've got to give, before I let you go, Sharika, And first of all, folks, let's get some real round of raucous emojis, some applause, some 07s. Let's get some 007s for Sharika Soal for coming on. There's the great Fornull is with us. Wonderful to see you, brother. Vivian is here. Hello to you and welcome. Isn't it? I mean, it's amazing. It's very brave to come on. It's very brave to speak the truth when you see it. You have to be able to speak the truth. You have to have the intelligence for it. And then you have to have the courage to be able to speak it. And you have to have a certain sang-froid. You have to have like a certain something about you that enables you to stand against the tide. And I can speak from personal experience of being that kind of a person. Because this is the warning I got to give to you that you got to watch out for. In America, across Western civilization, if you are white and you want to stand up against the victimization of white people, you really are given, and thank you all for celebrating Sharika in the live chat, the celebrating, the applauding emojis, the fire. Yes, very good. Thank you. And there's the great Anders is with us, another genius. If you're white and you want to stand up against it, then you really only have two paths. The first path is to go into what kind of is broadly described as maybe the conservative sphere. In the conservative sphere, and I didn't mention to you, Sharika, but I worked on the Hill in Washington, D.C. in the Nerve Center for the Conservative Movement. And so the biggest conservative organizations in the country, and White House reps, and senators, congressmen every Wednesday. Yeah, so I was right in the midst of that. So I know exactly what that is. And I also know this other path as well, which I'm going to talk to, and how we are plotting a new course here. We're plotting a new course with great folks like yourself. And in that conservative path, you have to pretend that there's no such thing as race. And it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. They will actually say things like they don't see color, which is fine if you're saying, well, you're hiring or something of this nature. But in sociopolitics, there is a group and their creations and their things that they've adopted from other communities that's being attacked. And if you don't defend on the basis of what's being attacked, you can't succeed. And many generations now have demonstrated that you simply cannot successfully defend against this attack by claiming that you are trying to defend I don't know what's something that like Sean Hannity might say. It's always something else. It's always this like proxy position that these folks think, well, it's even though we're being targeted because we're white, if we defend that for example, that we like to execute pedophiles, if we say that no, we want to keep that in place, then maybe we'll still get that. And then we won't have to say that we're white or that we care about white people, because again, like I said earlier, white people, as per everyone else, believe it immoral to do anything good for white people, even end white children from being victimized. And that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. We see, I mean, they are trying to normalize across the West today child-adult relations. And this is absolutely beyond the pale for what is normal and what has normally been done by white people to adults who abuse children. We are pretty merciless. We've always been pretty darn merciless. So there's that path. And when you go down that path, you have to give up, as I say, all talk about race whatsoever. And you can't advocate for white people against their victimization because that's to identify race. The other path are the ones you have to worry about, Sharika, because they're going to show up. Essentially, what they are is when white people look out into the world and we want to object to what's happening to us, the world, the movies, the TV shows, they give us that pathetic path with Sean Hannity. And then they also give us this insane path of playing a villain in the anti-white narrative. So they're essentially LARPing as the bad guy in movies. And they effectively ask anti-whites, how should I talk? How should I dress? What flags should we fly? And then they imitate those things. They think they're going to recreate some like World War II endeavor. And they go from initially a concern for white people, very quickly they slip into a hatred of all Jewish people. And they are ruthless. They are every bit as much a cult as the cult that you, as a black woman in the black community, or at least in the circles that you were in, that they kept you in, that they browbeat you with. So these folks, they end up, rather than advocating for an end to the victimization of whites, they advocate for a victimization of Jews. And fortunately, we just had one of the leaders in those circles actually openly say, yes, it's more important to hate Jews than it is to care about white people. So it's a great dividing line. But here's where you have to worry about it, is that every time someone new shows up, they've ruined us, Sharika. They've ruined us. We'll talk about it on a future stream together when we have more time. They have ruined us. The effort to put an end to the victimization of white people has absolutely been, for generation after generation after generation, eviscerated by these people, because normal folks show up and they're like, hey, what's going on? I don't like that my white 5-year-old has to make amends for the Holocaust. I don't like that my white 5-year-old has to make amends for 1,000 years of trauma visited on some other people done by some other people. And then they go to them and they say, oh, well, you have to hate Jewish people. And then Jews are responsible for everything. And normal white people are like, what are you talking about? And they leave. So we have all good normal people are run right off. What ends up happening, though, with some folks is that, like with you, I can predict this right now. Since you have spoken out against the victimization of white people, people in these circles are going to show up on your Twitter. They're going to show up elsewhere, and they're going to tell you, I've got all of these charts. It's all the Jews. It's all the Jews that's doing all of this. This is what they're going to say to you. And if you don't just ban them, they're going to keep at you. They'll ridicule you if you don't say it's the Jews. And then if you say that everything that's wrong in the world is all Jews, innocent Jews, whatever, if you say that like once anywhere, then they will applaud you with an ungodly number of adulation and support. And sometimes people find that seductive and they end up falling into that trap and their lives are ruined, because you cannot work miracles of love while hating some other group. That's the bottom line. And so I wanted to warn you, we went through months of serious hostility with these people because of this dividing line of focused in love and putting an end to the victimization for white people, or focusing with hatred on all Jewish people and wanting bad things to happen to them. So please be aware. Sometimes they'll show up and they'll try to present themselves as like ordinary patriots. Sometimes they'll show up and they'll be right there with the charts wanting to talk about Jewish people. But if you get sidetracked in your thoughts about ending the victimization of white people by focusing on negativity for Jewish people, you'll accomplish nothing, and you'll engender a great deal of animosity from ordinary folks of all races who see that as, reprehensible. So just wanted to give you that little warning. Watch out. They'll be showing up, I promise.
Okay, thank you.
They always do. But I figured with your fire and energy, I figured that you won't fall for their nonsense and you won't be pushed around. But
thank you.
We really appreciate you. And folks, once again, this lady reached out to me with her concern for our people and the victimization of our people. So that's a really beautiful thing. And she deserves a lot of respect. And so we really salute you, Sharika. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap it up today?
Oh, just thank you so much for having me, and thank you to all the chat. I really appreciated the kind words and everything. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. It was fantastic. And can we go ahead and say that you'll be back again? You'll be willing to come back?
Definitely. Yes, I definitely will come back.
Awesome. Well, it was fantastic. We'll wrap it up now, but we'll look forward to having you next time. We're playing outro music that everybody will love, and we'll see you all next time as well. Roll out. I want you to reach out in love. I want you to let those brothers and sisters around the base, let them know that even though the anti-whites wield so much power, that we are winning every contest with them, and that it's only a matter of time. Tell them that they can be more than they are. Tell them that they can stand up for Western kind, Western civilization, and everyone who lives in Western civilization of all immutable characteristics. Tell them that there's a way that they can stand up for it in love, with the moral high ground. Be gentle with them at first. Coming out of a story that you thought was the real world is one of the hardest things that folks can do. If you go there with a true spirit and a true heart, with humility, you're going to win more souls than you'll ever turn away. And in the end, all of that will redound to the glory of our people and the reclamation of our destiny.